Next question I had was on the fuel system. Sorry, odd way to start off the video. This is covering 4.0 swap in the 84 to 90 Bronco 2s. We're looking at the fuel tank from the donor Ford Explorer, in this case, which was a 92 Explorer two-door Sport. Apologize for the train noise in the background. So, slightly different here. These have the wiring harness here for the fuel system attached, whereas the Bronco, that's in the vehicle, kind of hard to see, but the connector is physically here on this thing. Believe, without pulling this out and going from memory, so I've done this swap a couple times before. There's a couple things that divide these fuel systems. So the sending unit from an 84 to, I believe, an 88 will work with the gauge that is in the 84 to 88. Now, if you go, if you're looking to do the Explorer Dash, you want to get a sending unit from a 89 to 90 Bronco 2. I had done this on the first time I did the swap, and the fuel gauge, when I was completely full, would read empty and then would start registering once I had gone down to about somewhere around between a quarter and a half a tank, let's say. And at fully empty, as it got towards empty, the gauge would actually start going up and it would read empty right around somewhere around 3/8 of a tank, you know. So a little backwards, not something that you want to have in your vehicle. You know, accurate indication of your fuel level is a pretty key component of reliability. So again, going with that, right? If you have a 84 to 88 Bronco, you want to keep your dash, you want to go with an 86 to 88 sending unit. That's designed for the tank that's in the Bronco 2. You're going to have the correct ohm reading to get a correct fuel reading on your gauge that exists in your car. Now, if you're going with an 89 to 90 Bronco 2, or you're taking the Explorer Dash, that's the other ohm readings that I was talking about. So this fuel tank, or this sending unit, will actually work, and I did this on my first Bronco 2. Funny story, actually. Was driving from California to South Carolina to come back on leave from the Navy, and I noticed my fuel gauge get low, and I had pulled over to talk to my wife. I didn't realize that, wife at the time, didn't realize that my wallet had fell out of my shorts pocket. So here I am, you know, far as hell away from anybody I know, at a gas station, and my wallet's missing. Well, kind of realized what happened. I turned around and I drove all the way back to where that happened, and then I drove all the way back to the same gas station. So I did not have an accurate indication of fuel. In that case, it probably saved me from returning late from leave. But normally that's not your ideal situation. So you do get a reading on this that does go from full to empty. But because of the tank, this sender is vertical in this tank. The Bronco 2 sender kind of mounts at an angle like this. So I'm estimating that thing was probably still close to half full, and luckily still sucking fuel when that happened. But the best thing to do is to take the sending unit designed for the tank that you're putting it in. You're going to get the best results that way. But in a pinch, if you're on a budget, this will fit in there, this will seal, and this will pump to your fuel lines. Now, going back over here, right, the 85 and 84 Bronco 2s did not have a electronic fuel pump. They have a vacuum fed line that comes up to the fuel pump on the engine, which, still have my 2.8 sitting right here. You can see the fuel pump right there, and that line that's missing right there, dead center. So that is a steel line that comes actually from this one right here, which goes up to the tank, goes down the driver's side frame rail, and joins the metal line right here that goes up to a hose and connects to that. What I did is the Explorer tank is more located right about here on the vehicle, right? The filler door is about the same location, but I don't know if you noticed over there, the filler hose connects, you can kind of see it through the window, on the back of that tank. Excuse me. And so those fuel lines are shorter. So what I did is I took that piece of metal line, which is 5/16, and I ordered 4 Dorman 5/16 brass compression fittings. And let me hop under here real quick and show you. Yeah, I didn't use a creeper to do the one when I was 18, but my back said I'm going to do it now. So the way that these lines worked out is, you'll notice right there, the transfer case is right about in the spot where this thing would have been inside the rail, which creates a little bit of a tight fit right there to do a fuel filter. So you can see one of the compression fittings right there, and basically I used the metal line that came out of the Bronco II, and I cut that with a rotating tubing cutter, and I used lengths of that to make up the length of the hose, or the line I should say, that would have been missing. So this is fully hooked up now. The flex hose is there for the fuel filter. I just jumped over the frame. I used the stock Explorer bracket drilled through, and give you a good point of reference, that e-brake spring right here, if you position that bracket right there, this line, which is the pressure line going back to the fuel tank, will fit pretty well. And I'll kind of show you the angle back here that I took to do that. Coming off the tank there, you can see the 2 fittings. The return line is the one that's vertical. The one that's kind of pointed towards us is the pressure line. Used a Bronco II clip right there. Came through this piece, this cross member. Jumped the pressure line up to the outside, and I am going to wrap that, because if that gets dirt in it, that's going to be a pain in the butt to do that quick connect fitting. But overall, I think having the fuel filter right there is going to be an advantage. Let's see. So yeah, that just kind of ties in right here. You could really cut these anywhere. I like to just position the lines. So the cuts that I made were in the forward piece of the line, which if you follow the fuel lines from the motor on the Ford Explorer, I'm trying to get them in the camera view here and it's kind of hard. Yeah, there's not enough light. But if you position those, clip them, and then where it rolls, that's designed to go out of the frame rail and up and clip into where the motor fuel lines hang. Position that, and then with that line in, come down here and take your measurements, and there is enough fuel line there to make both of these connections. And you just want to take it, clean it up with emery cloth, find a spot to make your cut that's not on a bend, so that your ferrule will seat well. And you know, there are some people that were a little nervous about me using compression fittings on this, but man, I'll tell you what, I mean, if you seat a compression fitting well for 40 psi, it's not going anywhere. You know, I'll probably check tightness on this just because I haven't done this before after, you know, a couple hundred and a couple thousand miles, but I'd be real surprised if these rattled loose or anything like that. You know, they're both going into a soft metal. One thing that pissed me off, and it pissed me off because I made this mistake twice. The bolts that hold the transmission, or the transfer case to the transmission tail housing, are a different thread pitch from the manual transfer case in the Bronco II, and probably the electric as well. I've never dealt with the electric in the Bronco II, and I don't ever intend to. You know, and if I did, it can go sit right over there next to that one that obviously isn't being used, because it's got that big ugly power window motor on it. Whoever's bright idea that was, I'd like to kick them in the nuts. But back on topic, different thread pitch, and I had to redrop the cross member on my other one and replace that bolt right there, and I forgot to do it on this one. So hopefully you don't make the same mistake, and whenever you're putting in the transmission mount, change that bolt out so that it will go in. right now that one's just going to sit there until I have a reason to drop this transmission again, or drop the cross member out, I should say. 4 out of 5 bolts plus an alignment pin, it's not going to go anywhere. Something else I just seen right here. Oh yes, so Rock Auto, I ordered the transmission mount for a 92, I believe, Ford Explorer, and it came in, and these bolts right here going through the cross member were a different width apart that would not fit these slots. So going over to the Explorer, it did fit that one, but then when I went to Rock Auto, it spec'd the same transmission mount for the automatic and the manual Bronco II as the Explorer, which still did not line up with this. So there's just something to be aware of there. When you buy it, open it, take it, check the distance between, sorry, I'm moving the camera here, between these two bolts. Make sure that's right before you throw away any packaging. Be prepared for a mess when you drop this transmission and transfer case. This slips out, you just press this off right here. I put in a new oxygen sensor. I recommend you do the same. If your Y pipe is destroyed on yours, there is a little bit of a difficulty to get one from a 91 to 92. 93 to 94 is readily available. The difference is 93 and 94 had 2 oxygen sensors, and the light's not on, but let me see if I can get this to show. Guess, oh, there it goes. So it has the bung there and the bung there for an oxygen sensor. The computer 91, 92 only has the one, so had a bung welded in right there. Just so, sorry, mosquito. So that I'm measuring both sides and not just compensating the whole engine based on half sample of exhaust for fuel trim. But anyway, started getting a little off topic here. The main point of this was looking at the fuel lines, and sorry, a new phone here. I would have had this light on a long time ago if I had thought about that, but just kind of give you a overview of these fuel lines to kind of guide you. Not much movement in that, you know. Ideally, yeah, it wouldn't be that loose, but you probably zip ties these together and they're not going to move that much. So like I said, this one's still in progress, still got a little bit of work to do before it moves. The drive shaft, while it's right here about to kiss me in the face, I will mention this. There is a drive shaft on the Bronco IIs that has a real thin piece coming out of rubber, and I want to say it's the CV style is what they refer to it as. Do not use that behind a 4.0. I threw that out the side on my other one. I backed it out of the driveway as soon as I finished the swap. Gave it some gas, and you know, I knew better. I was already shopping for the other drive shaft, but literally the first time I hammered it, it snapped that drive shaft and threw it out the side of the truck. So luckily I didn't hit anyone or anything, but would highly recommend against even attempting to use that drive shaft. And you know, if you got to for an emergency or waiting on a payday or something, go easy on it. And I mean easy. While we're under here, the exhaust fits pretty well. That is the OEM cat off of the Explorer. Missing a hanger there because the guy that I bought this from tried to sell the catalytic converter. But there is a hanger that goes right here-ish, which does not exactly line up with the Bronco II frame. So I will be having a different style hanger put onto this. The Explorer one actually mounts right there to that bolt holding the mount to the transmission intermediate housing. But obviously this application, it's blocked by the cross member, so different setup is going to be required. This fits pretty well. You still got enough room right here for an intermediate pipe to hang a muffler there. The Explorer has a bit more room back there to get over the axle, so your tailpipe is likely not going to work. So if you have to cut it to get it out of the vehicle, by all means, would not recommend against it. I think that's about it down here, guys. Like I said, as always, feel free to hit me up. Yep, while I'm looking at it, I'm going to do that a lot throughout this series. You know, there's so much to cover in this, and, you know, me having done my second one, I look at something and it's, you know, it may not jump out at me right off the bat, and I don't want to forget the information in the series. This piece right here is rather expensive, and if you can get this at the wrecking yard, I would get a spare. Keep this integral or together right here. This clip usually gets destroyed when you pull it out. Just take this 11mm off. Don't need to take this off of this assembly. You loosen this and it pulls right out. The gear that's on here, it is easy to change, but if you're using your Bronco rear axle, you want to leave this as it is. Just take this. This, you can either splice it in up there, or you can take the Explorer harness. This connector is the same. This sensor is actually the same between the two of them. The application where it's different is for an electronic speedometer. I ordered one by mistake once. Oddly, it's a lot cheaper than the cable one. But even on Rock Auto, this thing is like $158, $160 something. So take it out gently, which, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and show you. This isn't tight yet, so you pull this out. Don't get hit in the eye with fluid, but these gears have different numbers of teeth on them according to, you know, what your final drive ratio, your rear axle ratio is. So like I said, if you're gonna swap over and run the Explorer, which does require some welding, the Explorer rear axle does give you a bit more strength. I'm not going to do it right away, but I will do it eventually. Whichever axle you're using, that's the gear you want to use. And that little C-clip that's on there, you just pop that off with a screwdriver, slide this off, slide the new one on gently. You can order those by color from a Ford dealership if by chance it's destroyed or whatever. That O-ring seal that you see, sorry, right here, that's the seal to replace, but these are usually not too bad of a leaker anyway. And then this clip is designed to stay on there. You don't need to separate it. It will stay put. When you buy a new one, it'll be on there, so try to leave that alone if possible. So gently slide this in, and then put your bolt in and finish it off. That's not quite in there as far as it needs to be, but yeah, that is the same part number for all the Bronco 2s and the 91 to 94 Explorer, which is my donor of choice personally. May try to do one of them SOHC swaps here in the future, but that'll be another day, another video. Yeah, I'll go ahead and end this one, and like I said, if you guys have any questions, hit me up. Take it easy.